So what is there to say about Beckett? Beckett is Irish. He's an Irish writer from an Irish tradition that includes people as well, like James Joyce, who's written lots of kind of odd and obscure pieces, Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake, which are very stream of consciousness, very unusual books, things that I have struggled to get through in the past, even though I'm generally a fan of things that are a little bit more poetic and stream of consciousness. It goes a little too far even for me. And Beckett himself has written a couple pieces like this. He's written 3 novels, right? He's Malone. Malone dies in the Unnameable. I think those are the 3, and I can't remember entirely. It's something I probably should have looked at before I started this video, but those as well, a little bit stream of consciousness, a little bit following somebody's train of thought through, the twists and turns that it goes through. And he eventually gets to writing plays, and he decides he's going to do this in French, right? His first 2 plays, Waiting for Godot and Endgame, both written in French before they are ever translated by the author himself, right, into English. Now, Beckett, as an Irish writer, is not a French speaker. He's not a native speaker. He learns French because he goes to Paris, right? He goes to Paris to live and to work, and one of the reasons that he does that is because Paris at this point in time is a cultural hub of Europe. It's a very important cultural hub that has been welcoming people from the United States, from all around Europe. You have Dada that we've talked about, Surrealism. You have people like Picasso and Salvador Dali arriving in Paris to sort of live and work there in sort of an art space. You've got people from America like Josephine Baker, who are coming over to France in part to escape some of the racism in the United States. You've got people from around the globe who see Paris as a place that they can easily get to because it's continental, right? Ireland and England are off the coast, right? In order to get there, you got to get on a boat, you got to, fly in, once flight becomes a possibility, and it's a little bit more complicated, right? When you get to Europe, you can go from, Switzerland, to Paris, to Barcelona, all the way over to Eastern Europe if you want to. And so why does Beckett decide to do French? Why does he decide to write in French? Well, he comes up with a pretty pretentious sounding idea, which is that he had done so much in English that he needed a language in which he wasn't as familiar, because then it would make him work a little harder. In a way, he was like, it's too easy to write in English. I need a challenge. Pretentious, yes, but accurate, right? One of the things that Beckett realizes, that for him, writing has ceased to become something that is not what we refer to sort of as automatic, right? Beckett knows what he wants to say in English, and he can't break out of his habits in a way, right? He can't break out of some of these conventions that he's got. Working in a language with which he is much less familiar, he cannot rely on those old habits, right, in order to write what he feels needs to be written. And therefore he writes in French and comes up with these stories that are written in a completely different way. And then, to add to that, when he then translates them back into English, right, himself, he now is making decisions about how he wants to translate them back, right? What kind of work is it now? What kind of work is translation? In many cases, right, it's a new book entirely when you translate something back from one language to another, because you can't ever replicate entirely faithfully what that first language does, right? So Beckett gives himself a challenge. He comes up with these 2 plays, and the presentation that he makes of them and the way that he allows himself to write in this language emphasizes again some of this feeling of alienation, some of this feeling of feeling like an outsider, of feeling trapped, that we end up seeing in Endgame. This play is definitely a play on words. The original French, fin de partie, and the English, endgame, are both terms that would very often be used in chess, right? We talk about chess when we talk about end games, right? It's when everybody can sort of see how the game is going to end. There are very few solutions. At times, in an end game scenario, people who are really, really good at chess will simply concede. If they can see, right, this is going to end this way, we all know I'm going to make this move, you're going to do this one, I'm going to do this one, you're going to do this one, and then the game will be over, they may decide to concede early, just simply saying, we know what's going to happen, right? Fin de partie in French doesn't have quite the same interpretation, right? It is not exclusively reserved for a chess match, but it is reserved, right, for the end of a game, right? The final moves of a game that maybe the outcome is predetermined. We kind of get that impression from the way that the play proceeds. And it does give us an idea of what we are looking at, right? Beckett is presenting a group of people who are in the end stages of whatever this is, right? Wherever we are, it is ending, and we know that that whatever is going to happen, it's going to be final, right? So that's the kind of negative situation we find ourselves in, that the game is up, things are going to end, and it's simply a matter of figuring out, are we going to end with dignity? Are we going to end with sort of flailing about and trying to preserve ourselves? Like, what is going to be the end? So when we come back in the next video, we're going to talk about the different characters and sort of what we see in them that allows us to sort of determine how we're going to view them and how we're going to watch this play.